Yo, 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 what is going on, COD Familia? It is your boy BN, aka Mr. Kingdom Builder, and today, yet again, we got a special one for you. We're going to be giving you our artifact guide to artifact pairings per hero. So, we're going to break down each artifact, and I'm going to show you which heroes these artifacts would best benefit. And there's a few options as well, and we're going to break it down for you. I'm going to show you all the pairings, and then we'll do a brief discussion. I don't think the video is going to be too long, just because I'm basically just going to show you what I have on my spreadsheet after I mapped everything out, and then we'll talk a little bit about it. And then, of course, I'd love to hear your thoughts, your comments, your feedback in the description, or I should say in the comments down below. Before we get started, though, as always, in relation to the description, right, if you enjoyed the content, make sure you sub, like, ring the notification bell. And, of course, if you want to join and be a part of our conversation, hit up the Discord. You can find a link to that in the pinned comment description right down below. And remember, new videos are coming out every day at 14 UTC. Okay. So here we go. Without further ado, I think I'm actually already on this, which makes this kind of a nice transition. So I have added this to my everything COD spreadsheet, and there's a tab on here right next to artifacts that you can go to now, and you can find a link to this spreadsheet in the description and the pinned comment as well, where it'll say artifact pairing. Now, I've labeled every single one, and I really wanted to focus here more so on the types and the attributes, right? That's really what I thought was very beneficial in this regard. Now, some of the ranges, I just want to preface that some of these are not 100% accurate, because what I've realized is that to really get an accurate gauge, we would have to be able to go in game and truly see if these are near or close. I was trying to go off of the preview box, but they don't really have a range classification for every single one, and some of them can be misleading because you can be a little bit distanced, and it's kind of more of a near, and you can be a little bit distanced, and it could be actually farther than the distance it's showing you in that little preview video thumbnail. So again, don't worry too much on that. However, these are the heroes that I think are a little bit more ideal on who you can pair these with. It doesn't mean that they're the only ones, right? Because some of these you could probably still pair them with other heroes. But I really wanted to focus on giving you kind of a general idea, and then I'll show you some of the things in game as well for what I mean. But here, it's pretty straightforward, right? You can kind of see everything top down. I'll just kind of scroll down here to the advanced. I think there's only 3. Yeah. So you can kind of see everything here, right? So an example, and you're going to see a lot of consistencies. A big part of that is just because at this time there's only, 9? I have to remember this now, right? There's 9 legendaries, there's 8 epics. So that's 17, 3 elites, right? So you got 20 heroes currently as of recording. So there's not too much variation in that regard. And essentially what that means is that, right, like, for example, Cav-based artifacts are going to go on the Cav units, right? Bakshi, Emrys, Alistair, Magic, right? Lilia, Alwyn, Atheist, Waldir, right? If you're looking at Marksman, which is your ranged physical attack, kind of at a far, not a very far range, right? You have Nico, Guanwin, Craig, right, just to kind of give you some examples, right? So some of these will be consistent that you're going to see. However, how I really factored this, simply put, is where we looked at what was the main attribute for the artifact, and then what were the attributes of the heroes, and then was it something that also factored in? Like, one of the other things that I really want to try and get is, which artifacts do specifically have range, which ones of them are melee, because if you have a ranged artifact, you may not necessarily want to put that on a melee hero, right, for your primary, because you're just not able to take advantage of that distanced damage that you can do from the artifact, right? So that's why that was another thing I was trying to look at. And some of these are right. I'm just not 100% vetted on the range. So that's why I was saying, not really a need to focus on that too much for now, sake at least. And then for other ones like Gathering, right? These to me are pretty standard, right? Where you're going to basically put them on gatherers, right? Now it doesn't mean you can't put them on non-gatherers. It just means that if you want to overemphasize that, right, an example would be, if I was to type in gather, right, I can see here that there is 2 artifacts, right, that actually give me gather speed. That's Enchanting Coins, which gives me 10%, and then I have Lucia's Horn, right, which gives me almost 25% increased gather speed. Now, You have some other gathering related ones, right? Which Greenfinger Sickle, right? This will basically automatically, when you cast this, it immediately gathers a set amount of resources. And then it goes into its cooldown, right? So an example would be, I can't remember offhand, but maybe it's 100,000, right? So you click it, you activate it. Once your unit is in that RSS tile, it'll automatically gather, instantly gather 100k of that resource, and then you just have whatever's left. So that's an example, right? But it also has increased Legion load capacity, so that's why it's a little relevant here in that regard. And then we have something such as, oh gosh, let me see. Something else here. Staff of the Prophet. This is actually pretty cool. And I thought this was interesting because Staff of the Prophet actually allows for you to transport units, right? And I'll show you this in game. I thought this was pretty cool when I was reading it. So if we go replace, and then I'll show you, I think it's this one. Yeah, so you can see here, right, it says cast on a selected allied legion within the current region. That's the entire region, like a region like Daraland or Forgotten Lands as an example, and within Alliance territory. After 15 seconds, charge up your legion and 2 surrounding allied legions. Again, this is just at level 1. Allied legions are teleported to the target's location. Teleportation will prioritize your legions, right? So if we go to, and I'll give you another example here. We do probability, and then we go to, oh gosh, where is it? Here we go, staff. This is a cool little trick if you want to look at like max stats. So you can see here this goes from 2 to 6, right? So now it says cast on selected ally legion within the current region and within alliance territory. After 15 seconds, your alliance legion 6 surrounding ally legions are teleported to that legion's location. So an example of how I can see utilizing this in one way, right, is you could literally have a few cav legions. Like you could have like someone who's running like T1 or T2 cav, right? And they're just, and you just have like 10 people. Like you had 10 people running T2 cav just for one unit, and they're just running around, right? Or maybe maybe you're using it as a way to get your troops into the field or into the battle faster, right? Maybe something's happening and you need to run over somewhere real quick, and then what you do is you cast this, and then you stage all of your other units within Alliance territory in the same region, but maybe you're on the north side of the region. You need to get to the southern side of the region, right? And it's going to take your ranged and then your infantry too long to go there. So you basically speed run your T2 cav, you cast this, and then you're basically teleporting over 50 to 60 units all to where your cav unit is, right? And your cav unit's basically like staging right outside of the battle. So it just, interesting things like that, which I think is so cool, right? With something like Staff of the Prophet that you can do. So, because again, it doesn't show that there's a range at all. It just says that it has to be within a region and within Alliance territory where your allied legions are basically chilling, right? And then you teleport them wherever. And you can see here as an example, right? It'll bring them in here. So, again, kind of cool, right? When you think about how some of the artifacts actually have more usage than just kind of standard buffs. And so I thought that was something worth noting. But again, as I mentioned, a lot of these are going to be pretty standard. Like for example, something like this, right, where it's Springbird Feather. It just has Legion March Speed and HP. But you could arguably put this on anyone, right? You could put this on Cav to run that much faster. You could put this on your ranged as an example if you want to kite and be able to kind of keep your distance or keep your max distance away from the fight at all times. You could run artifacts that are nothing but just March Speed, right, on your, and I'll just give you an example here, right? So if I want to look at March, I have, right, Sorlin's Blade, that gives me 7.5. I have Springbird's Feather, that gives me 24.7. I have 21.7 here for Homecoming Blossom, and then I have a 17.7 here for Boots of Swiftness. So as an example, I could put these 4 artifacts on 4 mage legions, right? And then now I'm giving them a boost to March Speed where I'm essentially able to kite them around and always keep them at max distance from the fight. So I'm really only engaging when I want to, right? It's not like you're ever going to get counter engaged, or the likelihood of you getting counter engaged is less likely. So there's just so many different things that you can really do where you can use an artifact purely for its stats, but you don't really care about its active, and it could still be very relevant. Or you can opt to choose artifacts for their specific active, right? And that's kind of where it comes into the range part, right? Because really the active is based on or is tied to the range of how close you have to be to hit that active skill. So anyway, just something I wanted to touch on here because for the pairings we really have is kind of more based on attributes, right? And that's just because the percentage chance is high that one of these that this artifact going to this hero, the active skill is going to be relevant based on that distance. So that's why there's not really a lot of variance here when it comes to the range, because you're either going to be putting this on someone that if they're a marksman or they're an example would be is like this says marksman PvP. So this, if I go to Heart of Kamasi, just to give you an example here, let's go in game and I'll show you as an example, right? Is that the likely, or here we'll do it this way. Right, the likelihood of, because it says marksman, it's going to be something that a ranged unit would use, right, as an example. But I'll show you. So Heart of Kamasi, right? It says casts immediately. 3 friendly legions gain physical keen and onslaught for 10 seconds, increasing their physical. Here, we'll just go max. Increasing their physical attack by 30% and increasing normal attack damage by 30%. Only takes effect when a legion is composed entirely of marksmen, right? So it's not as though you're going to necessarily attach something that is a melee artifact, right, for active skill usage on a far range unit, right? It's just that chance is less likely. That's what I mean. When I say that there's less margin of error for the attachments that we were seeing based on the hero recommendations. So yeah, if anything, I hope you guys enjoy this one. I'd love to hear your thoughts. Like I said, right, some of these you can still apply to other heroes outside of the ones here, but I just wanted to take a moment to really kind of break down the basics of how you would look at attaching an artifact to a specific hero, and then show you some heroes that you can attach artifacts to. And beyond that, right, I'd love to hear what you guys think, right? If you have been doing a lot of PvP, I would love to hear what artifacts you have been finding to be the most valuable and the most well-used per that specific legion or hero that you're attaching it to. So let me know in the comments down below. That is it for me. As always, until next time, I'll catch y'all later.